This is John Dowler of Prayer Builders in Winona, Minnesota. Today we're continuing our teaching on the book of 1 Thessalonians. We've been going through verse by verse. We're in chapter 3. Now what's really interesting, in chapter 3 from verse 1 to 5, and today we're actually going to be focusing on verse 5. But in verse 1 to 5, Paul was actually encouraging them a lot about and he was talking a lot about the persecution that they had went through, and he was concerned. You're going to see that. I mean, that's really what a lot of this third chapter is about. He was so concerned about the Thessalonians. He did not want their faith to get shaken because of the persecution and the opposition the church was seeing. And this was weighing on God's heart. And let's just go ahead and read this. Let's just start at verse 1, and then I'm going to go right down, read straight through down to verse 5, then we'll focus on verse 5. So at verse 1 it says, "Wherefore, when we could no longer forbear, we thought it good to be left at Athens alone. And we sent Timothy our brother and minister of God and our fellow laborer in the gospel of Christ to establish you and to comfort you concerning your faith." I want you to look right there, because when we get down to verse 5, you're going to see this again. Something he keeps talking about here, Paul was really, this third chapter, he was really concerned about the Thessalonians' faith. He didn't want their faith shaken. He didn't want their faith intimidated. And in the Greek, that word faith means persuasion. God's heart. We're seeing God's heart here. God's heart was beating in Paul. When we hear Paul talking, we are hearing God talking. I do not want your persuasion to be shaken. I want it to be established and basically unshakable. Your faith, we never want to get to a place where our persuasion in God is weak, or basically we're losing. Things that are happening is causing us to lose our persuasion and our faith. It should never diminish. And that's what Paul was looking at. It says that's what it says here in verse 2. The whole reason they sent Timothy, our brother, our minister of God, in verse 2, and our fellow laborer in the gospel, to what? To establish you and to comfort you concerning your faith. I'll keep going. Why? That no man should be moved by these afflictions. And he was talking about the afflictions he had been receiving, because the Jews are going after him. They want him killed. That no man should be moved by these afflictions in verse 3. For you yourselves know we are appointed thereunto. For verily, when we were with you, we told you before that we should suffer tribulation, even as it came to pass, and you know. Okay, so now we're getting down to verse 5. For this cause, when I could no longer forbear, I sent to know what? Your faith. He said this thing had been weighing on Paul so much, was these people's faith and their ability to just be persuaded, be established in God, and know God was going to take care of them. God was going to show them what to do. God was going to establish their ministries. And it says, for this cause, when I could bear no longer, I sent to know your faith, lest by some means the tempter has tempted you, and our labor be in vain. Now, right here, you're actually seeing, this is what the devil's doing about. The devil is wanting. He's constantly wanting to try to undermine your faith, weaken your faith, stop you. He's trying to discourage you to be persuaded in God. And he knows, Paul's knowing right now, that that's one of his primary tactics. The devil is looking at how to come in and zero in on your faith, and he's gonna try to tempt you, not necessarily like Like sometimes when we think of temptation, you just think of people being tempted to, tempted to just commit some sin or do something wrong. That's not what this is talking about. This right here was temptations of the devil. This was the devil trying to put things into their minds, into their hearts, into their thoughts that would literally weaken their faith. Basically cause unbelief to come in. That's what this was talking about. And I just want to encourage you right now. The primary place to have your faith strengthened is right here. Hearing God's word, reminding yourself of what God has done, going in here and looking at these people, these patriarchs of faith that have lived in the Bible, and look at what they lived through. I mean, the book of Acts was the foundation of our example of how the church should live in opposition and how it should live in persecution and how the church should continue to be undaunted by it, not shaken by it, but established and continuing to press on. That's what's needed right now. That's what's needed in these days that we're living in. So anyway, I just wanted to encourage you with this. I pray this was a blessing, and I want every one of you to know, do not be discouraged. When we get to chapter 4, Paul actually says what words we're supposed to be using to encourage one another. And those words are, Jesus is coming back.